Hello, good afternoon, students. How are you? And good afternoon to everyone who is watching my channel now and joining my class. So today I'm going to start chapter 10. Okay, let me see who's with me today on the channel. Okay, Kenneth, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. And whoever wants to drop in a note, please let me know that you're here. Okay, right, let me share screen now. All right, 1 minute now. Okay. All right, so I have not enabled it yet. Okay, so I hope you can see this. All right, so I'm going to start chapter 10. Hello, yes, Ziying. Okay, hello. So good afternoon, everyone. Now, chapter 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is quite technical. A lot of students find it difficult because it all has to do with the anatomy, the human body, and all the processes, the physiological processes that happens. It's not easy to understand. Very technical, all right. But never mind, with a bit of motivation and hard work, I think you can master it. Okay, first let's start with transport and in humans and animals. Okay, now first of all, we're going to look at 10.1, which is the types of circulatory system. So we're looking at the one system in our body that is called the blood circulatory system. Okay, first of all, we need to understand why do we need it? Why do humans, and even not only humans, vertebrates, animals like fish, mammals, insects also have it, all right? And also these amphibians and also reptiles, they all have this circulatory system. Why do they need it? Okay, why do we need it? Okay, first of all, the necessity for a transport system. Transport system is referring to a system that brings in substances and also removes waste products. So if you look at this cell, this is a cell, all right? What does the cell need in order for it to continue living? Okay, let me ask you this question. What is needed for a cell to continue living? Okay, anyone can answer me? And what needs to be removed from the cell so that the cell does not die? It can continue to carry on, to live. Okay, what does it? Kenneth, can you answer this? What is needed for a cell to continue living? Not just any cell, in fact, not just your human cell, any cell. Any cell, what does it require in order for it to continue living? Okay, it must require some basic necessities, some important substances, nutrient and oxygen. Yes, very good, Kenneth. So it needs nutrient and oxygen. So these are the two things that will keep the cell alive, fuels the cell, okay? And in order for it to also continue living, it has to, the byproduct of the respiration, it produces things like carbon dioxide and also substances that will be toxic and it's not good for the cell. So it has to be removed. So these are the waste products. Now, in order to do that, it has to come out of the cell. So many of it for single cell, for those unicellular organisms, right? It can carry on these processes of supplying oxygen into the cell and also removing the carbon dioxide can happen through diffusion, okay? And even through the cell, right? It goes across the plasma membrane of the cell, okay? Now, for unicellular organism, like here you can see an amoeba, which is very small, all right? The exchange of substances can occur through diffusion. So diffusion will be just enough, right? Will be adequate to bring in oxygen and also bring in the nutrients, and carbon dioxide from the cell will be able to diffuse out into the environment to be released or to be excreted, okay? So it does not need any complex system to carry these things into the cell and out of the cell, because, right, there are certain reasons why. Okay, because it's unicellular, so it's very, very small. It has a small body mass, okay, and of course the volume is also small. Then short distance from the environment. The internal part of the cell has only very short distance to go before it can reach the outer side of the cell. So it can go out very easily. the substances can diffuse easily in and out of the cell. Short distance only. Okay, so you don't need any complex system to carry the thing inside. Diffusion is enough. Just it will be adequate enough to carry out the process. And also, one important concept that I need to explain to you today is the total surface area per volume ratio. We shorten it to write it as TSA per V. Total surface area per volume ratio is large. Okay, large, this is a unicellular organism, but the TSA per V of a small organism actually is large. Okay, so this is something maybe a lot of people cannot understand. So they will think that if it's a small organism, it should have small surface area, it should have a small volume. So why not the answer TSA per V is small? Okay, but why is it on the other hand large? Okay, this is a ratio. So that means we must take the total surface area of the organism, divide by the volume. So when organism becomes bigger and bigger, you find that the volume will increase much faster compared to the total surface area. So that if you take the total surface area per volume for a large organism, the answer will be actually very small. Okay, to illustrate that, you do a simple simulation of calculation. All right, now let me show you this. Okay, before that, let me explain the necessity. So why organisms like us, let's say we are human, right? Look at the girl, okay, she's human. So large complex organisms cannot obtain all they need, for example, the oxygen and the nutrients, and also expel the waste by diffusion across their surface. They cannot just move out the carbon dioxide through to the skin, or have the oxygen come in through the skin. Okay, simply because of a few reasons. Number one, the distance between the cell that is inside the body, okay, let's say the internal part of the body, the middle part of the body, is so far away from the surface, so far away from the skin, because the body is big, it is round, we are cylindrical, we are not flat. All right, if you are flat, then it's easier, but we are round, so the distance will be quite far actually, and oxygen cannot diffuse that far. All right, and also the body shape, like I mentioned just now, cylindrical. Our body is not flat, so if it's flat, the distance is shorter, but it's round, so the distance is further. All right, yeah, nutrient, especially like glucose, correct? Yeah, we need nutrient to survive. So another answer is because the TSA per V is small. So you can see the difference here. For a big organism, the TSA per V is actually small. Okay, so we're going to do a simple simulation to make you understand. So if we take the surface area of this girl and we divide by her volume, actually that number will be quite small compared to the amoeba. Okay, let's look at this. So we cannot rely on the skin just to have the substances move into the cells, into the middle part of the body, and also remove all the unnecessary substances, okay, like the waste product, through the skin. Okay, we can't just carry out diffusion through the surface. We have to have specialized tubes to bring in the oxygen and also to carry all these substances around in the body. Okay, let's look at this simple simulation. Let's compare the TSA per V of the two organisms. Okay, so we compare a small organism and a large organism. Okay, just for example, we just look at, for example, we have a ladybird. Okay, ladybird is quite small, right? Let's give a simple, okay, and then we compare with a rat, where it's much bigger, right? Maybe the size of the body maybe like 100 times bigger, all right? The volume maybe 100 times bigger. Okay, let's look at, we compare it, we use this small little cube to represent the ladybird, right? Let's say this cube has a dimension of 1 cm in length and 1 cm in height, 1 cm in width. And we look at one bigger cube which has a dimension of 10 cm in height, 10 cm in length, and 10 cm in width to represent the rat. Okay, so now let's count the TSA per V of both of these organisms. Okay, let's start. Now let's look at the surface area of one side for the small cube. Okay, since it's surface area, in order to find area, it is width times height, or rather length times the width, length times width. So 1 by 1, right? Okay, Kenneth, 1 times 1. 1 times 1, we will have 1 cm squared. That is for one surface. Okay, but the cube has got 6 surfaces. So you got to times 6 to get the total surface area. So the total surface area is 6 cm squared, okay, for the small cube. And then you take the, let's count the volume. Let's calculate the volume. The volume, okay, how to get the volume? Volume is length times width times height. So it's 1 cm by 1 cm by 1 cm. And you'll still get 1, but it's 1 cm cube. All right, 1 cm cube. So now we take your TSA divided by the V. Take your 6 divided by your 1. See what you get. All right, 6 divided by 1. Okay, don't worry about the unit. The unit is actually per cm. All right, so 6 divided by 1, you get 6 per cm. All right, so this is the answer for the ladybird. Now let's calculate for the rats. Okay, which much bigger, right? Let's calculate the surface area on one side. Okay, one side is 10 cm in length. Then the width is also 10 cm. So 10 times 10. That will be like 100 cm cube. Right? Okay, not 100 cm squared. Sorry, 100 cm squared. Now there are 6 surfaces, right? One surface is 100 cm squared. So 6 surfaces, 6 times 100 cm squared. That will give you 600 cm squared. Okay, are you following? Okay, yeah, it's not too difficult, right? This is what you've learned in, I think, in Form 1 Maths, to calculate the surface area and the volume of specific cubes, or size. Okay, then look at the volume. Let's try to find the volume. Volume is length times width times height. So 10 times 10 times 10, we have 1000 cm cube. Okay, now let's take your TSA and divide by the V. So 600 divided by 1000. 600 divided by 1000. You will get 0.6 per cm. Okay, so you can see here very clearly, a bigger organism will have a smaller TSA per V compared to a smaller organism. Okay, if you work with another bigger one, you can have an elephant, let's say. Elephant, let's put a bigger cube, let's say 100 cm by 100 cm by 100 cm. You will still get your answer even smaller than a rat, 0.06 or maybe 0.006 cm per cm. The answer will get even smaller. Okay, so it means when the organism becomes bigger, the volume increases much higher rate compared to the surface area. Okay, if you take your surface area divide by a volume, the volume will be a very big number. You get a very small number actually. You get a very small answer. Okay, so the conclusion of this is the bigger the size of the organism, okay, if you compare just now the rat and the ladybird, all right, the smaller the total surface area to volume ratio it is. Okay, so if we compare this leopard and the rabbit, the leopard will have a smaller TSA per V compared to the rabbit. And if we compare the rabbit to the paramecium or the amoeba, the rat will have a smaller TSA per V ratio compared to the paramecium or the amoeba. Okay, so when the size increases, as the animal becoming larger and larger in size, the volume actually increases much higher or much faster than the increase in the total surface area. So your volume is a big number. When you have a number divided by a big number, your answer is a very small number. Okay, so your TSA per V is very small. That means it's not enough total surface area. So the diffusion will be very slow because diffusion is related to the total surface area. The more surface it has, diffusion will happen faster. Okay, all right. So that's why we need, for multicellular organisms like the ladybird and the whatever, okay, is considered still multicellular. We need a special system, and that is the blood circulatory system to carry the oxygen to all parts of the body. You see the branching out of the blood vessels, so that every single cell out of the millions of cells in the body, right? Every cell will get to get the supply of oxygen and also remove the carbon dioxide. Okay, if you don't have this tube system, the system of these tubes, this oxygen will not be able to move into the internal layers of the skin of the body. Okay, and these cells will ultimately die. Okay, they die very soon. Okay, so to overcome this problem of low TSA per V or small TSA per V, multicellular organisms have an internal transport system. So in invertebrates, right, the animals with backbones, so this transport system is known as the blood circulatory system. Okay, so today we're going to learn the blood circulatory system. We're going to compare among different organisms, their system, the circulatory system of insects, human, animal, this fish, and also amphibian. Okay, first of all, let's look at there are two types. Circulatory system, there are two types. There are two types, all right? So one basically is open, one is closed. Okay. The oxygen demand for small organism is lesser. Yes, that's true also. When you have a small organism, the oxygen demand is smaller because it's not so active. It does not carry out very active metabolisms. So oxygen demand is smaller. So it does not need to have oxygen to be delivered at very high rates and all that. But you have, if animals like birds, okay, birds especially are very active because of the fly. They have to fly and they have to produce a lot of energy for that process of flapping their wings and so on. So they have a higher demand for oxygen. That's why they also need this transport system. Okay, that's a good question, all right? And the answer is yes. We can also say that these animals, smaller organisms, they have less demand for oxygen. Okay, let's look at the two types. One is the open circulatory system and one is the closed. So all the circulatory system can be classified into two types. So we're going to see the difference. All right, now look at the open first. In the open circulatory system, you will see that there's a heart there, right? It could be more than one heart, right? Okay, for this open circulatory system. The blood or whatever we call it blood or the fluid, okay, that goes into the tubes. These are the tubes, they call it the vessel, okay? For insects, this liquid is called hemolymph. We don't call it blood because they don't have blood. Insects don't have blood. But insects have a type of liquid, all right, type of a substance, okay, a fluid that we call hemolymph. So they are always, they are in tubes, but when it comes to the body cells, look at the yellow dots here, all these are body cells. This fluid actually flows out. It flows out and it bathes the cell. So this hemolymph is the chichae or the fluid. It goes into the body cavity. Body cavity is the space which we call hemocell. Okay, so this white area here is the hemocell filled with body cells that requires oxygen. All right, so this hemolymph or that fluid flows into the tubes, and then there'll be one point where this fluid flows out of the tubes and actually comes into contact with the body cells. So they're quite open. You can see the blood vessel, it sort of like ends there, and the fluid comes out. So it bathes the cell, it touches the body cells. Okay, and then this hemolymph is like a blood-like. So it's blood-like, but it is not red in color. It's blood-like because it contains nutrients, just like blood. Blood contains nutrients. So they are found in most invertebrates like insects and mollusks, like those shellfish, right? Like snails and shellfish. So this is the open. All right, okay. Now we compare with the closed. There's a very obvious difference there. Okay, look at the closed one. Okay, for the closed, right, you can see the tubes never open out. The blood, now this one we can call the blood, right? You can call it the blood. The blood that moves into these tubes, right? Okay, let me put color here. All right, this blood that moves inside here, you see that it never flows out. It always flows in the tubes, and it never touches the body cells. The blood does not come into direct contact with the body cells. In that case, how to deliver oxygen and all that? How to deliver the substance that the cell needs? Okay, it doesn't have to come out of the body cells. We have something called diffusion. The substances diffuse out. The oxygen diffuses out. Okay, and the waste material diffuses into the blood vessel. So this blood is always contained in a continuous and closed blood vessel. So it's not open. The blood does not flow out. If it flows out, that means there's something wrong. Your blood vessels are damaged. They are ruptured. Okay, and the blood comes out, and then you have this hemorrhaging, you have these blood clots and so on. That is abnormal. Should not happen like that. Okay, so the exchange of substances such as oxygen and nutrient will occur across the wall. So you can see all these substances will exchange across the wall. The blood does not flow out and touch the body cells. Okay, so that's why we call a closed circulatory system. After that, this blood will flow back into the heart. Okay, and then it gets pumped again. All right, clear? So you need to make a distinction between closed and open. So that is one important differences. Okay, right. Let's look at next one. So now, as a summary, what kind of animals or organisms will have the closed and the open one? So usually, open are those invertebrates. Okay, not all. There's some, like earthworm is an invertebrate, but it has a closed circulatory system. Earthworm is closed, even though it's invertebrate. So here for the insects, let's give an example for the grasshopper, the cockroach, and the bee here. They are insects. They have open circulatory system. And for closed, we will explore a few examples. Fish, all right, then you have amphibian, and you also have the human. So we're going to compare the circulatory system for these 4 organisms first, before we go into the 10.2. Okay, so we're still at 10.1. Okay, so the circulatory system of insects, all right. So it has got hearts, not only one heart, but a few hearts. Okay, you have one or more hearts. They will pump. This applies the pressure to pump this fluid. Their fluid is called hemolymph. You don't say blood because it's not red in color. It does not have hemoglobin. So that fluid is called hemolymph, and it moves along these tubular hearts, and they have pumping action. So when the heart contracts, the hemolymph will flow out into the hemocell, into the space there. We call it the body cavity. Okay, and then this liquid bathes the cell. Okay, the hemolymph here will touch the body cells and delivers the oxygen and whatever the body cells require, right? And at the same time, carbon dioxide, okay, will flow back into the hemolymph. It will go back into the heart. Okay, so the next picture will show you what happens, the returning. Just now was passing out the hemolymph. Now, in the hemocell, the exchange of substances will occur through diffusion, all right? So whatever is needed to come out, it will come out from the hemolymph and pass on to the body cells. And then after that, when the heart relaxes, just like it was pumping, right? It pushes out. Now when it relaxes, it has the opposite action of drawing back. So now the blood comes in back into the tubes, the openings of the heart there, called ostium. Okay, and then it will move forward again, and then it will pump out again. Okay, so this is a very simple circulatory system of insects. It's open, right? Because this fluid makes direct contact with the body cells. Okay, clear? Now let's look at the closed one. Now let's look at the closed. This fish, and then the amphibian and the human, they are all closed. Okay, so fish. Let's look at the circulatory system of fish. You have learned this in Form 3 before. Okay, so it's nothing new to you. So I'm very sure you can understand it because you've seen it before in your chapter 3 of Form 3 Science. Okay, circulatory system of fish. So there is a heart. For fish, it has a heart, but there are 2 chambers. 2 chambers means 2 bilik, 2 ruang, 2 cavities. One smaller and one bigger one. Okay, one smaller one is called atrium, and one ventricle. So you can see that now, atrium and ventricle. Atrium first, then ventricle when the blood flows in. Then after the blood is pumped out from the ventricle, so the ventricle will contract, the blood comes out. So you can see the blood comes out here. Then it will be passed over to the gills. The gills is where they receive oxygen. Okay, you learned that in chapter 8, sorry. So your gills, you have a lot of blood vessels there. So this is referring to the gill capillaries, and oxygen diffuses into the blood. At the same time, carbon dioxide diffuses out. Okay, and then after that, right, where does this blood go? This blood will be directly supplied to the body cells. It does not go back to the heart. Okay, so if you learn the human one before, like in Form 3, you learn the flow of blood in human heart. After collecting oxygen, it still comes back to the heart first. But for the fish, it does not go back to the heart. After collecting oxygen, it is directly flows to the body cells to be delivered, the oxygen to the body cells. Okay, and this type of circulation is called systemic circulation. Okay, not systematic. Be careful when you use the word. I see a lot of students write the mistake of systematic. It's not systematic, it's called systemic. So this circulation, the function is to carry oxygenated blood to the body cells. So you can see at the bottom there, that is the systemic capillaries. Those are your body cells. All right, so this is the systemic circulation. And after that, of course, it collects oxygen, carbon dioxide from the body cells, and it comes back. Okay, so the deoxygenated blood, the one in blue, right? It returns to the atrium through the veins. So you have artery and also vein. These are the blood vessels. Okay, then this type of circulatory system, okay, is known as single. Okay, so single is because you can see very clearly there's only one loop, right? Once it travels to the gills, it doesn't come back to the heart another round. The blood doesn't enter twice. The blood enters the heart only once, and then it makes one full circle around, carries supplies to the body cells, and then it comes back to the heart. So there's only one time where the blood enters the heart in one entire circulation, a complete circulation. You can always do it this way. All right, you put a X here to show how many times does the blood enter the heart before it comes back to the same place. Okay, so let's do here one. Okay, it hasn't entered yet, so it goes all the way around, and then it comes. Now it comes into the heart one time. Okay, it passes through and it comes back to the same place. So the entire circulation, there's only one time. Okay, one time of it enters the blood. Okay, so we call it single. So blood flows through the heart once in one complete circulation. Okay, so let's look at the amphibian now. Right, circulatory system of the amphibians. So this is obviously a frog, right? So the circulatory system of amphibians slightly different in terms of the heart. It has got three chambers. You will see that there's one ventricle, but two atrium. Two atrium, in plural, we call it atria actually. Okay, it doesn't matter, like you say two atrium, you're not going to mark it as wrong. You can say two atrium or two atria, but the correct grammar to use is actually two atria and one ventricle. So you see there's this share. When the blood comes into the ventricle on both sides, one is oxygenated blood, the other one is deoxygenated blood. It actually mixes in the ventricle. All right, so the blood flows in two circulation. You'll see there are two loops. One that goes up there is called the pulmocutaneous circulation, and the other one that goes to the body cells, all the parts of the body except the skin and the lungs, that is called the systemic circulation. Again, systemic, not systematic. All right, okay, and this is known as a double, right? Because actually it enters the blood two times. The blood enters the heart two times in one complete circulation. Okay, we shall see. Now let's see. So circulatory system of amphibians. Okay, sorry, wrong spelling. It's AMPHI. I did not change from the BM. So amphibians have a incomplete double circulatory system. Just now we say it's double because there are two loops here. You'll find that there is a pulmocutaneous circulation going to the lungs and the skin. The other one going to the body cells. But it's called incomplete. Incomplete is because there's mixing of blood in the ventricle. Okay, so the pulmocutaneous circulation transport blood to the lungs and the skin. So you see the purple one, that is the pulmocutaneous circulation, which the heart pumps the blood to the lung, right, and comes back to the heart. That is one loop. Okay, there's another one, right? This one comes back to the heart here. The other one is called the systemic circulation. It transports oxygenated blood to the body cells and also returns. You can see the blue one. This is the systemic. So it sends blood to the body cells and it returns it back to the heart through the veins. So this is another loop, right? So there are two loops here. So we call it double. All right. So here, just revise here. The oxygenated blood from the body cells is transported to the right atrium. Okay. So it comes in. This is the blue color one. This deoxygenated blood comes in. At the same time, actually, number two also happens. On the other side, you see on the other side, the left side of the heart, the oxygenated blood comes in from the atrium. All right, goes in to the atrium as well, same time. Both sides enter at the same time. After that, your atrium will contract. Okay, once the atrium contract, it will push these two type of blood, all right, one left and one right here, into the ventricle, and it only has got one ventricle. So when there's only one ventricle, the blue and the red, all right, to show the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, they will mix. So mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood occurs. And that means the capacity of carrying oxygen is less for this blood. And the next stage is this ventricle will pump. Once it pumps, it will carry this blood up, right, you can see there are two places it goes to. One, it goes to the lungs to carry fresh oxygen supply, and the other one goes into the aorta that carries this blood to the body cells. That means that is a systemic circulation. So you find that because there's a mixing there, the capacity of carrying oxygen will be less. So it doesn't get much oxygen. So, but don't worry, because they have another organ, which is the skin, to make up for the loss, for the lack of oxygen in the, when they carry through the, when they take in the oxygen through the lungs. Okay, so it makes up for it lah. So they have the skin there. All right, okay, so remember the two names, pulmocutaneous circulation, and then the other one is called systemic circulation. Okay, now let's look at human, right? Human is by far the most complex system of all, but the most efficient. It's the most efficient of all the four types there. Okay, why is it most efficient? Simply because we have full separation of the heart chambers. You have two atria and two ventricles, and then the left and the right side of the heart, they do not mix. There's no mixing of blood. Unlike the frog, where there's only one ventricle, the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood will pour in, they mix in the ventricle. But for the human, no mixing. Okay, the right side of the heart will always handle deoxygenated blood, and the left side of the heart will always handle oxygenated blood. And once it pumps out to the body cells, there's no mixing. All of it carries as much oxygen as possible. Okay, so this is called double. Also, you can see there are two loops here. One is the pulmonary circulation. So these are not pulmocutaneous because there's no skin. You don't breathe through the skin. The cutaneous actually means the skin. So this one is just pulmonary circulation. So there are two in one cycle, there are two times the blood enters the heart. Okay, so let's see how it works. Let's say I start from here, okay, before the vena cava. So here it enters the blood one time, okay, enters the heart one time. Then it goes in and it comes out again. Out, don't count how many times it enters. So this one goes one big round, comes back to the heart. You see, this is the second time. Second time it enters the heart through this pulmonary vein. Then it goes into the ventricle pumps the blood out of the heart, all right, and it makes one full circle and comes back to the same spot here. In this one complete cycle, there are two times the blood enters the heart. So we call it a double circulatory system. Okay, so and also complete. Why is it called complete? Complete has to do with whether there's mixing or not. Just now for the fish, for the frog, there's cutaneous, there's mixing, right? Okay, Kenneth, to answer the question, what's the difference between pulmocutaneous and pulmonary? Okay, pulmocutaneous, that one is for the frog, because frog also, this blood goes to the skin as well. Cutaneous just means the skin. For this human circulatory system, this pulmonary artery that carries blood out, it goes to the lung only. So we call it pulmonary, no cutaneous. The cutaneous is comes under aorta there. The aorta carries blood through the skin. Okay, but for the frog, the pulmonary artery, it branches out to the lung and also the skin. So therefore, we call it pulmocutaneous. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So here, to look at the pulmonary circulation for the human, don't say pulmocutaneous. Okay, pulmonary. There is one loop here. So the deoxygenated blood enters the right atrium, then ventricle pumps the blood out through the pulmonary artery, and it goes to the lung. So the purpose here is to collect fresh supply of oxygen, because this blood is deoxygenated. There's no point pumping blood that's deoxygenated in your body. Okay, it serves no purpose. You're not carrying oxygen, so you have to get more oxygen. So this one goes to the lungs, right, to get fresh supply of oxygen. After that, it will come back. Okay, after carrying oxygen, fresh supply, it comes back to the heart, because the heart will pump it to all the parts of the body. The reason why it comes back to the heart is because so that there's pressure. The heart will provide pressure for this blood. Without coming back to the heart, just like the fish just now, after collecting oxygen from the capillaries, from the gill capillaries, it's sent directly to the body cells. But this is at low pressure. Okay, the disadvantage of not coming back to the heart is it will be at low pressure. So that means the blood will not be at high pressure. And of course, if human, we are more active, we will need oxygen at higher, more demand, like you mentioned, more demand for oxygen. So the blood has to be delivered quickly to the body cells. Without that pressure, it's not able to deliver quickly to all the body cells. Okay, that's why it comes back to the heart to get that pressure. And then the aorta will deliver the high pressure blood to all the parts of the body. Okay, so that's why you need to come back to the heart. And you can see the fish has got low blood pressure. So when you low pressure, when you try to clean fish up, right? When you want to want to clean fish, when you cut fish, notice the blood doesn't spurt. The blood doesn't spurt. The blood just oozes out slowly because the pressure is low. But if you try to cut chicken, all right, you want to sembelih chicken, you want to slaughter chicken, when you cut the blood spurts, because this is also double for the chicken and bird, and also human, right? This blood spurts if it's artery because it is at high pressure. Okay, all right. So next, the other one, systemic circulation. This one carries blood from the heart to the body cells and back to the heart. Okay, right. So systemic, blood is pumped from the heart to all the body cells through the aorta. So the aorta is responsible to carry oxygenated blood to all the body cells. And after that, once it's delivered to the body cells, it collects back carbon dioxide and it comes back to the heart through the vena cava, the right side of the heart. Okay, so now let's look at the similarity. So the similarity between all these types of circulatory system means the insect and the fish and all this, they are found, they have circulatory system because they are not single cell, they are multi-cell. Okay, it consists of a heart, at least one heart. For the insect, it will be more than one, right? And then it has this hemolymph for insects, for human is blood. And the function is to transport nutrients and waste. Okay, and the heart has got valves to make sure that the blood flows in one direction. The valve function is to make sure that it doesn't go backwards. The blood flows in one way. Once the blood passes through, the valve will close to stop it from moving backwards. Okay, then differences, right? Type, you can compare in terms of type of circulation, so you can read for yourself, right? The number of circulation in one complete cycle. So for the fish is single, right? And amphibians and human, this one will be double, right? Then heart chamber, insects, there are many cavities, there are many hearts there, right? That's tubular heart there. Then for fish, you have 2 chambers, for amphibian 3, for humans 4. And whether next one you also can compare in terms of whether there's separation of oxygen and deoxygenated blood or not. Okay, so for the amphibians, there is incomplete separation. That means the 2 blood got mixing. There is mixing in the ventricle. For the human, there is complete separation, okay, of these 2 types of blood. Okay, all right. Now let's go on to 10.2, right? Now 10.2, we look at the components of the blood circulatory system of humans. So we're now very specific, we're going to humans. So there are 3 components here. Okay, if you recall your lesson, I don't know whether you have studied this or not. There is an organ called the heart. That is a pump that provides pressure, that circulates the blood to all the parts of the body. Okay, then you have the blood. The blood is a medium of transport. It's the liquid that carries things. Okay, if you want to pump something, you must pump what? It must be some kind of liquid that carries the things that you want. So this is the medium of transport. It carries, there are blood plasma. The liquid part is called the plasma. There is the blood cells. The cells, there are cells inside the blood, and there are also platelets. The type of cell there is called platelets. Okay, we'll see the details later. Blood vessels, these are the tubes. The tubes that contain the blood inside. Okay, there are 3 types: arteries, capillaries, and veins. So we go through that in detail of this, right? So, and the function of this is to transport blood, okay, to all the body tissues. Okay, let's look at the structure. Now, this is the structure of the heart. This is graphic now. It's not real, but our heart looks very similar to that. Okay, what you see here, the majority part at the bottom there, that's the ventricle, and up there, you can at the top there, you can see that the 2 atrium or atria. And the tubes, the big tubes that you see there, these are the major blood vessels that connect to the heart. Okay, you need to remember the 4 names, 4 types of blood vessels. Okay, right. So let's look at this. If we slice open the heart, okay, and all the vessels there, you will see that there are 4 main chambers. So the atrium are the 2 smaller ones at the top, the ventricle is at the bottom. And for the heart, you always label your heart like this. The one on the left is actually the right side of the heart. And then the one on the left, on your right, is actually the left side of the heart. Okay, so a lot of people get confused. Why is it like that? In any picture, you always see the picture of the heart. In fact, any organs, all right, any human anatomy, you find that when you draw an organ, right, the left will always not according to your orientation, but according to, let's say you're drawing the heart of a person standing in front of you. So his right is your left, and his left is your right. So you're drawing somebody's heart, not from how you see it from your perspective, but from the perspective of that person who owns the heart. So that is the left for that person, and this is the right. Okay, understand it that way, and you will never go wrong. All right. So where is it? It's located between the lungs in the thoracic cavity. So you open up the thoracic cavity, it is actually between the lungs. Okay, and then of course it's protected by the rib cage. 4 chambers. Okay, so it's left atrium, left ventricle, no spelling, sorry, ventricle, 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 right and left ventricle. And it's separated by the middle part, that is the septum. It's a muscular wall, and this is important because it will stop the separation, stop the mixing of the 2 types of blood there. Okay, it's called septum. It's muscular wall. Okay, so now let's look at the flow of the heart. Okay, so atrium receives blood that is returned to the heart. So it comes in together actually. When the heart contracts, it comes in together, right? So the blood flow in from the vena cava into the atrium, the right atrium, and at the same time, the blood that comes in from the lungs, okay, the blood that's just received oxygen from the lungs will come in through the left atrium. So after that, the atrium will contract, and there's no way to go except downwards. Okay, there are 2 valves here. It allows the blood to flow downwards into the ventricle. And after that, the ventricle will contract. These 2 valves in between there will close, and it goes up the 2, we call it the major blood vessels. So you can see these 2 blood vessels, right, labeled green here. So one is called aorta, the other one is called the pulmonary artery. This one you've learned in Form 3. Hope you still remember, right? So, and you can see the ventricle will always have a thicker muscular wall, and it contracts stronger than atrium. Okay, the reason is because atrium needs to produce a higher pressure. It will carry blood to further distance compared to the atrium. Atrium just needs to contract and push the blood down to the ventricle. Very close by only, very nearby. You don't need a lot of pressure to do that. Okay, so next. Now, muscular wall of the left, if you compare left and right, the left and the right of the ventricle won't have a difference. The left side is always thicker than right side. Sorry. The left ventricle needs to create a higher pressure. So if recent question asks you why does the left always have to be thicker? Okay, so that it can create, thicker means it's stronger. It can compress, it can press harder, it will produce higher pressure, and the blood can move up at higher pressure. Sorry, yeah. The right ventricle only functions to pump blood to a short distance only, which is to the lung. So it doesn't have to go very far. Right. Okay, now the labeling. Don't get confused. Very simple. Just label the 4 chambers first. Right atrium, right ventricle. Left atrium, left ventricle. Okay, simple. Excuse me, I need to get some water. Okay, right. Then you have labeled the 4 chambers. Now you label the 4 main blood vessels. Okay, there's a superior vena cava. Actually, vena cava, there's not only one, there are 2. One coming from the top here. It delivers blood from the head, from the neck, and the shoulders, the upper part of the body. It goes into this superior vena cava. And there's an inferior vena cava that channels blood from the lower side of your body into the atrium. Okay, into the right atrium. So the one that comes out from your body, I mean your legs and your abdomen and all the parts of your body there, lower part, it comes in through the inferior vena cava. Okay, and then the other one. Now, there is a blood vessel that carries blood out of the heart. This is a pulmonary artery. This is to collect, to channel the blood to the lungs to carry fresh supply of oxygen. And then another one, you can see the blood comes back from the lung and goes back into the atrium, the left atrium. This is the pulmonary vein. Now, why do we have two sides? Because we have two lungs, one on the left, one on the right. Actually, it comes into the left atrium only. Even though you see there are two, coming from the left, then coming from the right pulmonary vein, both of them will come into the left atrium. Behind, you can't see it because we're looking at the front. It comes in from behind. Okay, yeah, right? So clear? Do I have any questions so far? Okay, nothing here. All right, let's go on. And what about the valves? We're done with the chambers. We're done with the blood vessels. Now look at the valves. The valves, okay? Oh, sorry, aorta. We haven't done seen the aorta. Aorta is the one that curves. You can see very easily curve. Once it curves like this, actually the pulmonary artery and the aorta is like crisscross. It's like they overlap each other. Okay, but don't get confused. As long as you see the one that curves like this, that is the aorta. It carries blood to all parts of the body. Okay, and then now your valves. So there's a tricuspid valve here, which separates your atrium from the ventricle. It is to stop the blood from going back into the atrium after coming into the ventricle. And this one is a bicuspid because it has two flaps. Tricuspid, it has got three flaps. Okay, three flaps. Then they're at the base of the aorta and the pulmonary artery. There are also valves. Same name, we call it the semilunar valves. Okay, and that is the one that stops the blood from, after ventricle pumps, the blood goes out of the heart chamber. It doesn't come back inside. So it's to also prevent blood from flowing backwards. Okay, to ensure one-way flow of the blood. Okay, so now we see the detail. Vena cava transports the oxygenated blood back to the heart. Okay, so it doesn't show only one. So actually superior and inferior. Number two, you have the pulmonary artery. This is the blood vessel that channels blood to the lungs to carry fresh supply of oxygen. Okay, then next one, you have pulmonary vein. This transports blood from the lungs back to the heart. Okay, it comes in from behind. This is the front, the dorsal, the anterior view, right? That one is the posterior view. Then after that, aorta, you see the one that curves upwards and there's a U shape there. This is the aorta, carries blood to all parts of the body. Okay, now, so always remember the function of the blood vessels. Okay, next, what about the valves? Okay, tricuspid valve, everything is to ensure blood does not flow backwards, that's all. Okay, so this one is from atrium, enters the ventricle, doesn't flow back to the atrium. And semilunar valves also stop the blood from coming back to the ventricles. When the ventricle, it doesn't go back to the ventricle. When the ventricle relaxes, not contracts, when the ventricle relaxes, ensures blood that flows out of the heart does not flow back into the ventricle when the ventricle relaxes, not contracts. This should be relaxes. Okay, next. Bicuspid valve. So this is the other one that was on the other side, two flaps only. It ensures that the blood flows into the left ventricle, does not flow back into the left atrium. It doesn't go up. Okay, once it comes in, it doesn't go back. And then the other one, this is the septum. A septum is to separate the left and the right side of the heart so that there is no mixing and you don't have the problem of your oxygenated blood having not enough oxygen because it's mixed with the deoxygenated blood. Okay, next. Right, now we go on to the medium. We have seen the heart organ. Now we look at the composition. Okay, the blood. Human blood has got 55% plasma and 45% cell components. Why they call it plasma? Plasma is actually the liquid part of the blood. You can see the liquid part there. Okay, it's the medium of transport. It's liquid. And then the other parts, they are suspended. Things that are suspended inside there. You have cells. Three types of cells here. Red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes. Then platelets And next one is a white blood cell called leukocyte. Okay, so these are the components of human blood. And then how do you get this human blood? Okay, so this is a graphic organization. Blood cells, you have 3 types. All right, so just to show you very quickly. And white blood cells, we have 5 types. All right, so we have to look at the differences afterwards. And plasma, what is in the plasma? You have water, plasma proteins, solutes, and hormones and enzymes. These are the things that makes up your plasma. Okay, now human blood. How do you get this blood in 2 layers? Actually, blood, if you draw out blood, you see everything is red, right? But actually, you can separate the component that you call the plasma. The yellow color here is the component called the plasma. You can separate out if you put it in the tube, in a what they call the test tube, and you put it into a machine and you spin it. So we call it a centrifuge. When you spin it, the tube will fly out, okay, in a certain direction like this, and all the heavy stuff, the parts of the blood that are heavy, that means the cellular components, the red blood cells and all that, they will sink to the bottom, and then leaving the liquid part on top. So you got to spin it for about 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, once you spin it, you will separate the 2 components, and these are the things you will see. You will find the erythrocytes make up about 45% of the blood volume. All right, and then the floating up there, you have the red blood cells. We call it the leukocytes, and also the platelets floating up there. And it's very little. And on top there, you will have this liquid component, which is called the plasma. Okay, so sorry, the leukocyte, this is not plasma. Plasma doesn't have liquid. So this platelet, it should be referring to this. That is the platelets. Okay, so sorry, a bit of the diagram wrong. So this platelets is referring to this one. This is the platelets. Okay, next. Now, plasma. Plasma, you can see that that's the yellow part here. This has been separated. This is not whole blood. Whole blood means the blood that is everything, not separated. So this is already separated, you get the plasma. It consists of water. 90% of the plasma volume is actually water. So we need water. You need water to make blood actually. So it consists of solvent. Water is a solvent and it's a medium of transport. Okay. There is plasma protein. This is large molecule protein. They call fibrinogen, albumin, globulin. That's in the plasma of the blood. Okay, these are called plasma protein. They are large molecules. It cannot enter it cannot go through the membrane of the capillaries. Okay, then you have solutes. Okay, solutes are dissolved substances like glucose, okay, urea, and excretory substances like carbon dioxide. All these are things that are already dissolved in the plasma. Okay, and you also have hormones and also have enzymes in the plasma. All right, okay. Now, composition of human blood. Okay, now we continue with erythrocyte. Characteristics is elastic. The membrane, the plasma membrane is elastic. Okay, and it is the shape. If you want to explain the shape of the erythrocyte, it's called biconcave disc shape. And this is adaptation actually. Why is it good to have this kind of, what's the advantage of having this shape? You can see that the middle part is curved inwards. The middle part is actually thinner compared to the outer part. Okay, so it's a bit thinner in the middle. This actually increases or enlarges the surface area, total surface area per volume, because it is flatter. When it's flatter, right, it will allow diffusion to happen at a higher rate, rather than to have something like a huge sphere. When the huge sphere is the inner part is very far away from the side, so diffusion will be very, very difficult to occur or very slow. Okay, then no nucleus at the mature stage. Okay, and this is good also, because if there's no nucleus, then you can carry more hemoglobin. And when you carry more hemoglobin, that means you can bind with more oxygen, can carry more oxygen. Okay, no nucleus is not a problem because they do not carry out cell division in the blood to produce new cells. The cell division is carried out in the bone marrow. So the bone marrow actually produces the new red blood cells. Okay, the red blood cells do not carry out cell division to produce new cells. The new cells come from the bone marrow, so they do not need the nucleus to carry out cell division. Okay, and then it lives up to 120 days, and they are destroyed in the liver or the spleen after 120 days. And then you get new ones coming from the bone marrow. Okay, function. There's only one function of erythrocyte, and that is to transport oxygen, because it has got a very important protein called hemoglobin. Okay, can I give an answer? A question. What is coronary artery and coronary vein? Okay, these are the artery and veins that are on the surface of the heart. They carry oxygen. Coronary artery carry oxygen to the muscle, the cardiac muscle, so that the muscle can contract. Okay, this you will see on the picture of the heart. These are the blood vessels on the surface of the heart. Okay, this is also part of the systemic circulation. So they bring oxygen to the cardiac muscle so they can contract. At the same time, the coronary vein will take away carbon dioxide from the cardiac muscles there, all right, and it's brought back to the heart. So they deliver oxygen to the cardiac muscles so that the heart can continue pumping. Okay, it's part of the systemic circulation actually. Bone marrow is located where? Bone marrow is located in your bone, in the middle part of your bone, like the long bones here, like the ulna and radius, your this shoulder bone, which is the humerus, or shoulder bone, the humerus, the thigh, the middle part of the bone. You know, sometimes when your mom cooks chicken and that, you don't fry properly, you don't cook it properly. Sometimes when you eat, you see the blood coming up. The middle part of the bone, right? It's a bit bloody, right? That is the bone marrow. In BM, we call it sum sum tulang. It actually produces white blood cell, red blood cell, and also platelets. So many of our blood cells come from there. Okay, yeah, all right, we can carry on. Right, so hemoglobin contains a heme group which has iron. So you need iron to make hemoglobin. Without iron, you cannot make hemoglobin. That's why pregnant women, very important to have enough iron so they can make blood for the baby as well. Okay, you need to have, there's an extended need for iron because the mother needs to produce more blood because some of it is for the baby. All right, so hemoglobin combines with oxygen and that forms oxyhemoglobin. You've learned that in form 3. Okay, characteristics of platelets. So you can see the quite little things jutting out there. They look like fragments of cell. It looks like pieces of cell that are broken. Okay, the round one, this one is actually white blood cell. The round one is white blood cell. And the platelet is this one. The platelet is the one that looks like a star there. So they're produced from fragments or scraps of cell cytoplasm that also come from the bone marrow. The bone marrow is the part of the body, the bone, which produces the types of cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Function of the lifespan is less than 1 week. So they get recycled very, very fast. Okay, after about 1 week, they will be broken down and new ones will be formed. Okay, function of platelet is involved in only one thing. It is blood clotting process. When you have injury, the blood flows out. It should help the blood to clot with this platelet. Without platelet, your blood has a difficulty in clotting. Okay, let's look at some more. Now let's look at the difficult component, which is the leukocyte. Now leukocyte is a general name for all the white blood cells. All the white blood cells, doesn't matter what type. You know that there are 5 types. I mentioned just now. There are 5 types here. So how do you remember? Okay, remember there are 2 types. One is called the granulocyte. Granulocyte is very simple to see. It has got granules. So you see this bintik here, all the little dots in the cytoplasm. There are 3 types: neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil. So remember the NEB. Okay, once you remember the granulocytes, then the other 2 will be the agranulocyte. A means they don't have the granules. So their cytoplasm is clear, don't have the granules there. There you have the monocyte and the lymphocyte. Okay, 2 types there. Okay, clear. So 5 types here. So I will look at each of the function. The function of each type is different, slightly different. So let's look at the first one. Okay, first of all, the characteristic of leukocyte first. They are irregular in shape. They are not fixed in shape. So that's why it makes it easier to squeeze through the blood vessel, the capillary. It can come up through the blood capillary and enter the interstitial fluid. It enters the space between the cells. Okay, so they are irregular, they are not fixed in shape, you can squeeze through. And it has nucleus. The nucleus is quite prominent, it's quite large, easy to see. Okay, and there's no hemoglobin, so it doesn't make it red. It's hemoglobin that makes it red. It's also produced in the bone marrow. Okay, and the lifespan are even shorter than 7 days. This is less than 5 days. Okay, so your white blood cells are constantly being reproduced. I mean, recycled, and produce new ones. They're able to diffuse out capillary pores and fight pathogen. That's what I mentioned. They can squeeze through the capillary pore and they can kill bacteria that happens to find its way into your body cells. Okay. Dengue patient has a low amount of platelets. Yes, yes. This one, I think they are being destroyed. The platelets are being destroyed. So one indication of dengue is low platelet count. Correct. That's correct. Yeah. Somehow the platelet is destroyed, okay, by this virus. Okay, next, neutrophil. Let's look at the first type. So this is a graphic interpretation now. It doesn't really look like that, all right? So it has got 2 to 3 lobes. So these are called the lobes. Chuping. Chuping is like, pinching off here, little bit, one block like that. So this has got 2 to 3 lobes. And the function you need to remember, neutrophil has a function of eating up the bacteria, eating up the cells which come into your body and attacks your body. So it carries out the process called phagocytosis. So it will menelan, okay? It will engulf, it will surround the bacteria, and it will bring it inside the cell, and it will digest it, okay? Using these enzymes that it produces. Okay, next one, eosinophil. This one has got 2 lobes. Okay, the nucleus has got 2 lobes. This is also granulocyte. I'm referring to the granulocyte. So NEB, neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil. This one has a different function. It does not kill bacteria, but it releases enzymes that fight inflammation. When you have an infection, all right, some part of your body is injured, or maybe your bacteria has come in, that you have inflammation, and sometimes you will have allergic reaction. So this one will combat, okay? It will reduce the allergic reaction. It will produce antihistamine to to sort of like combat, to overcome your body's reaction, allergic reaction. Maybe something has come into your body and your body, it does not agree with your body. So your body is producing the response of being inflamed. We call it allergic. So this one will try to fight that allergic reaction. Okay, reduces the allergic reaction. Basophil. Okay, this one is the least number in all the entire population of these white blood cells. This one has the least one, and this function is to produce heparin. Heparin is a substance that prevents blood clotting. Okay, now why we prevent blood clotting? For an blood vessel or injury, there's no injury. Okay, for a blood, your system, it should not be clotting, because if it's clotting by itself, that means your blood cannot deliver oxygen to the body cells and so on. So the cells will ultimately die. So heparin is to prevent blood clotting when there's no injury. It should not be, it should not clot. When there's no injury, your blood should not clot. Okay, all right. So the next one, lymphocyte. So we go to the A granulocyte. A granulocyte, you have 2 types, lymphocyte. So do not mix up your leukocyte and lymphocyte. Leukocyte is the general name for all the white blood cells. Lymphocyte is one of the white blood cells. Okay, lymphocyte is under leukocyte. So lymphocyte, very big nucleus. The cytoplasm very little because occupied by the nucleus already, like most of the space. It produces antibodies. This one you must remember. Lymphocyte, it produces a substance called antibodies, and it has the function of destroying pathogen, not eating up. There are different ways of killing bacteria. One is the neutrophil eating up the bacteria. This one is producing a substance called antibody, which will bind to the pathogen, right, and will immobilize it and make it not toxic, so it does not, this bacteria or this toxin will not be harmful to your body cell. So this is the function of lymphocyte, to produce the antibody. Okay, next, it produces antitoxin. Antitoxin is a substance that can break down the toxin. Toxin is like poison. Okay, something that has entered your body that is poison to you. So you can produce, your lymphocyte will produce antitoxin to fight against the toxin. This toxin actually comes by being produced by bacteria or virus. Okay, then last one, monocyte. This is the largest type of all the white blood cells. Okay, this is the largest type, the largest leukocyte, and the nucleus has a kidney or a bean shape. So it's like something like this. Okay, the shape of the nucleus is big and also kidney shape. All right, and it ingests bacteria. All right, it kills bacteria. It has the same function as your neutrophil. So monocyte and neutrophil have the same function. They carry out phagocytosis. Okay, so just to recap, all right, recap here to make it simple for you to remember. So here I will classify it. Phagocytosis carried out by neutrophil and monocyte, and then produce antibody is lymphocyte. For the eosinophil, this one is to combat the allergic reaction. For basophil is to prevent clotting of the blood. Okay, yeah. So let's go on to the last part, which is the blood vessels. Blood vessels, there are three types: artery, all right, capillary, and the vein, right? Now, why they call it artery, blood, capillary, and vein is because of the direction of flow of the blood, not because of what type of blood it carries. A lot of students get the wrong impression. It's artery because it carries oxygenated blood. It's vein because it carries deoxygenated blood. That is wrong. That is not the definition of artery and vein. Okay, artery simply means the blood vessels carry blood out from the heart. That is artery. Don't care what blood it carries. As long as it carries blood out of the heart, it's called an artery. Okay, so transport blood out of the heart. So the function is to transport blood quickly at high pressure to the body cells to deliver oxygen. Most of the blood that is coming into the artery is actually oxygenated blood. But there's one exception. There's one artery that carries deoxygenated blood. That is the pulmonary artery. It goes to the lung, right? This is deoxygenated blood, but goes to the lung to carry fresh supply of oxygen. So the pumping of the heart will produce high pressure. So the arteries, the blood that is transported in the artery is at high pressure because of the pumping of the heart. And the arterial wall is elastic. So it's good to be elastic so that it can resist the pressure. So it will not burst. It will prevent rupture of the arteries due to the high pressure. Okay. And therefore, when we feel our pulse, the pulse comes from the artery actually. You can only feel the pulse at the artery. For the vein, you cannot feel the pulse because it's at low pressure. Okay, this artery branches out into smaller vessels called arterioles. And then arterioles will branch out into smaller ones called capillary. So there's one artery. After that, you get capillary. And after capillary, you'll be connected back to the vein. So they are all interconnected and it's closed. Your blood never flows out of the artery. Your blood never flows out of the vein. Okay, it's a closed system. So blood capillary, now so these are the blood capillary and they are one cell thickness. The wall, they only have one layer of cell to make up the wall. So it's very, very tiny. The lumen is very, very small. It is so small, it allows single file of the red blood cell to pass through, not 2 by 2 or 3 by 3. All the blood vessels go single file because they're so small. Capillaries are very, very minute. Okay, function is to allow gaseous exchange, so oxygen will come out to be delivered to the body cells. At the same time, carbon dioxide will go in from the body cells to be collected back by the blood to be transported away, okay, through diffusion. So the blood again never comes out. So nutrients and hormones also diffuse into the body cells, and the waste product will diffuse out of the body cells and come into the capillary. And the capillary later joins together to form the next part, which is the vein. Okay, so you can see the capillaries, they rejoin. They join back and they form the venules first. Venules are the smaller ones. And then after that, many venules will join together to form the vein. And these many veins will join back to become the main blood vessel that is called the vena cava, that pours the blood back into the heart to the right atrium. Okay, so it's all connected. Your capillary from the artery, then the capillary, and then to the heart, and back to the vein. Okay, so now we go to the last part, which is differences. So this is a very common question. It's a very popular question as well. Explain or describe, compare and contrast. Let's say compare and contrast. Make sure you write some similarity also, at least one. For differences, there are many. You can compare in terms of the wall. How thick is the wall? The size of the lumen. Yes. Difference between monocyte and neutrophil. They both carry out phagocytosis, correct? Monocyte is agranulocyte. Neutrophil is granulocyte. There are two types. Yeah, the capillary means blood capillary, correct. Capillary, so it means the blood capillary. Yes, not the lymphatic capillary, blood capillary. Okay, so wall, you talk about the thickness. So this is one very important point. Artery, you find that the middle layer here, there are three layers actually. The middle part is the smooth muscle. It's muscular, very thick the layer there, and it's elastic. So that's important because it needs to resist the pressure. Okay, so the blood vessel doesn't break. Okay, and then next one, capillary. All right, the capillary is one cell thick only, and there's not elastic at all. It doesn't have any muscles there. It's only the inner layer. Okay, for the vein is thin. The layer, there is muscular wall. Okay, the muscular layer there, but it's thin and less elastic, and it is not so muscular. You can see there's a valve here. This is a valve. All right. Okay, lumen, small. The size you compare small, and capillary very very small. It's up to like 10 micrometer only. The thickness. Okay, or the lumen size, and vein is larger, much larger than the artery because the muscular layer is thin. Therefore, it got more space to have the lumen. For the artery, the muscular layer is thick, so the lumen will be smaller. Okay, valve, absent, present. Only the vein has got the valve. Okay, for the artery, it's absent except at the base of the aorta and the pulmonary artery lah, where you will have this semilunar valves. That's the only place that is the valve there. Okay, next one. All right. So differences between next one here, blood pressure. How is the blood pressure? So the blood pressure is different. Artery will have the highest blood pressure. Capillary will have low blood pressure, and vein is even lower. The vein even have lower pressure than capillary. Direction of flow from the heart to the entire body. So artery carries blood away from the heart. Capillary, it joins the artery to the vein. Okay, it's in between. And then vein, it brings back blood from the entire body back to the heart. Okay. Oh, all right. Next one. So next one I've got questions actually. All right. Questions, I think I don't need to discuss the questions. This is an actual question some years ago. So I just want to show you the answer so you can, look at it on your own. Right. So give an example. So you must recognize what type of organism it is. All right. And similarities and differences. So you can see, first of all, single one, single circulatory system. That one is the fish. The second one here, you can see there are 4 chambers, and the septum is completely divided. I mean, the chamber left and right completely divided. It must be human. Okay, so fish, and the other one, human or mammal. Human or mammal also can. Bird also has got 4 chambers. Okay, bird and human. For the amphibian, it will be 3 chambers. Okay, similarities here, they are both closed. They flows in blood vessels. They have hearts or atrium or ventricle or atrium and ventricle. Okay, these are similarities. Just try to think of any similarity that you can see from here. Okay, they have the pumping organ, and the heart acts as a pumping organ. All right, maximum 2 marks here. Okay, then you have differences. Differences, there'll be more usually. See how many number of marks? I think 4 marks. 6 marks here, so 2 for similarity and 4 for differences. So talk about the circulation, which is single, which is double. Okay, one is single, one is double. Then the number of chambers of the heart. This one 2 chambers. Fish has got 2, and the heart has got 4. The human heart has got 4. Okay, then you can replay this if it's too fast, so you can replay it later. Then heart does not have a septum. Can discuss in terms of whether it has or doesn't have a septum. Then oxygenated blood flows from where to where direction, from the gills to the body cells. Okay, for the other one is from lung to the heart. So, and then what about deoxygenated blood? Deoxygenated blood flows from where to where? From the heart to the gills, and for this human, from the body cells, from the heart to the lungs. Okay, to get more supply of oxygen. Okay, so you can review this on your own. All right, so this is, I've taken in quite a long time for this lesson. Sorry. So thank you very much for joining my today's lesson. I hope to continue another time with my further lessons. Okay, so thank you very much. Let me see if any questions. All right, I think I've addressed all the questions. Okay, I will see you next time then. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye-bye. See you. Thank you for joining.